think it is something.
You're right.
You know what
I mean?
Now it's nothing.
It is something.
All right, Brew, do you want to go? Where do the Lakers go from here?
I'm not saying Darvin Ham was Red Auerbach.
Okay, you keep saying that.
No, my point is this. Ty Lue's who you want.
Yes.
He's got a year left on his deal with the Clippers. Even if he doesn't coach the Clippers, which I don't know why he wouldn't next year, you think Steve Ballmer, their owner, is letting him go down the hall and coach? No. So my point is this. Rather than bringing a retread or J.J. Redick, who knows what he could do, let Ham stay one more year. If it doesn't go well, then you can get Ty Lue. What if you bring in somebody next year, Budenholzer, Redick, whoever, and it doesn't, it's okay. It's about like it was this year. And then Ty Lue's available. Now you're going to be like.
But you can't, if you're bringing back LeBron, which they want to, you can't be doing anything saying,
I get that.
Well, year 22 is going to be a holding pattern, and then we're going to, so.
But you don't know what you're, like, I just don't see any names out there. There's no Phil Jackson out there. You know what I'm saying?
That's fair.
That's all I'm saying.
But listen, I do not think Darvin Ham is the main culprit for the Lakers season being over. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest culprit is the draw. That who they drew in round one is getting the Nuggets. I know it sounds weird coming from me because I said if they were ever going to beat them, they should want to play them in round one. But it was obviously the toughest possible round one matchup that they could get. I think the second biggest culprit, and you can't hold the draw accountable, is the front office. You can go chapter and verse on missed draft pick from this year. The guy's taken, the three picks directly after JHS, Jalen Hood-Schifino, the Lakers took, all contributed this season. Mm-hmm. You can look back to the fact that the Lakers drafted Jaden McDaniels and then traded him for Dennis Schroeder. You can look back to the fact that I saw last night, I know they lost, but Buddy Hield, who was acquired midseason for nothing as by a team that was trying to contend get someone. The Mavericks, who I believe we're going to be seeing for quite some time in this postseason, remade their team without, it's not like they paid 4 future first-round picks. They made these moves. The Lakers did none of that. So I hold the front office most accountable. Unfortunately, the front office seems to be Jeannie Buss, Linda Rambis, and godfathered into the Buss family, Rob Pelinka. So they're not going to be accountable. So then you look at the head coach and say, do we think this year he got the most out of the team? I don't. We can disagree. I personally don't. And then the next thing is, do we think, fair or not, and I think it's fair, that the team the players had disengaged from him. They had.
That's true.
And do I think that Darvin, if there was any chance of saving his job, however slim it was, has the accountability of, he did an on-the-record quote saying, without saying it was Austin Reeves, we know who he's talking about, right. Austin Reeves was bleeping the bed to Dave McMenamin.
He had to know it.
Well, so I'm just not going to feel badly for him. I don't think he did a great job, and I don't think he connected with his guys. And I think he didn't do a good job of ever doing I need to be better. It was a lot of they need to play harder.
I think at times he did that. And at the end of the season, who else was bringing up the injuries? LeBron. After they lost to the Nuggets, LeBron was like, look, it was hard to know what we could be because somebody was injured here, then we get whole, then somebody was injured again. We never were whole. I also say this, Nick, whether it's Darvin Ham or whoever, a front office can empower a coach. And they never did that with Ham. And I get it, there's no Pat Riley there. But we saw Pat Riley do it with Eric Spoelstra.
Yes.
When the players wanted him fired, he was like, look, if you're going to win, it's going to be with this guy. All right, and so they had no choice but to listen to the coach and buy in. The Lakers could have done that with Ham, but the front office is looking for a scapegoat.
That's correct.
Right? They're looking for, let's put the blame somewhere else. And again, switching coaches every 2 years is ludicrous.
And Wildes, go.
No, I'm not.
Go ahead. No, you have a good tweet. I saw it in your prep that I think actually speaks to the problems.
I know, but because that supports your take. I don't want to start a fight this early in the day.
No, go ahead. But
it's 3 o'clock.
But you hold on. Wait, you're
Tiger.
You
got to keep
put
the
up
Tiger.
the tweet.
I got him caged.
Hold on.
Yeah. I got him caged.
Then all
He's just sitting there licking
What
his
is
paws.
the tweet? I didn't see
Can we put up?
I haven't
No, this
followed
was
him
Bill's
yet.
tweet I wrote.
Bill
something.
Simmons' tweet.
Here's
Yeah.
what I.
We're talking about the front office moves. Was Bill Simmons' tweet? But go ahead.
Okay. Then you shouldn't have picked them to succeed this year. If that's the way you felt about the front office, and they shouldn't have had a big piece of title pie, and you shouldn't have picked Lakers in 6 over the Nuggets, because all the issues that you talked about existed before everyone had all of this optimism. And then once it went down the tubes, as some people could see, yours truly, all of a sudden it switches and be like, man, we needed Alex Caruso. Well, you didn't need him 2 weeks ago when the Lakers in 7 was trending and they had a big slice of title pie and LeBron can make a run at a championship and you're saying they're the second best team. So now it's all switched and poor Rob Pelinka's like, oh shoot, I shouldn't have traded KCP 7 years ago.
No. So hold on. But these are, I guess this is where this, and it's not going to start a fight, but this is where multiple ideas can be held in someone's head at the same time. I believed this was not a very well-coached team, and a poorly constructed second half of the roster. I'm not calling, you know what I mean?
But you thought it was going to win the championship?
Well, I never picked them to win the championship. I said I picked them to beat the Denver Nuggets going into this series, is what I did. I made the mistake of, I guess mistake is fair, of being like, you know what? I believe this is the greatest player I've ever seen. He's healthy, and I think he's going to have one last amazing act in him. And he's going to, despite all of that, for instance, Wildes, the 2018 Cleveland Cavaliers were one of the most poorly put together teams I've seen. I thought the Kyrie Irving trade was a joke what they got back from him. They remade the roster on the fly in it. I picked that team to go to the finals because I thought LeBron could carry him. He did.
The East was weak.
And the East was weak, and LeBron was brilliant. It did not mean that at the end of that year I couldn't say, Kobe Altman, you did a bad job. Yeah. And now that team I thought was well coached by Ty Lue. And this is where the point on, and Brew's point on the in-season tournament, or when people are like Vogel won a championship. Sometimes you can overcome coaching. Sometimes people can even believe you will overcome coaching. But that doesn't mean that when the season's over, you don't want to have a sober. That would be like, in my opinion, saying, oh, now you want the Chiefs to upgrade at receiver. They won the Super Bowl. Like, no, they did despite it, but they still need to improve there. Even if the Lakers had beaten the Nuggets, I wouldn't have think that, oh, Darvin Ham's a great coach. Now, maybe he would have done something in the series that changed my mind, but it would have been hard for me to believe it. That's where I'm at.
Okay. All right. Do we have replacements or no? You got nobody?
That's my point. It's going to be a retread or somebody we have no idea whether he can coach or not, J.J. Redick.
Well, that's the only option in anything.
That's what I'm saying.
But in life, it's always either a retread or a new guy.
Every single coach they bring in will have been criticized at some point to the same degree, if not more, than Darvin Ham. Mike Budenholzer, Kenny Atkinson, Phil Handy.
Yeah,
but every single coach, Terry Stotts.
I want to give Sam
Cassell would be. Cassell has paid his dues. He would be an interesting one. I think Sam should have been at a head.
You're right that guys, if they hire someone who's already had a job, they will have been criticized before. What those other guys will have, that in my opinion Ham didn't, is also people that were like, hey, this guy was excellent at this. This guy was excellent during this time. People loved what Kenny Atkinson did with the Nets pre-trade. Yep. People appreciated.
Yeah, but that was a whole different. That was a bunch of guys who aren't that talented. No. That's a different type of coach than a team with LeBron and AD.
No doubt, and I totally agree. My point is, at least those guys would have, if it's a job interview and you have references, people that would call in supporting them and people that would call in saying, I'm not sure about it. I don't think right now, if Darvin were applying for a job, I don't think there were a lot of people be like, hey, here's what I loved that he did with the Lakers. Here's what his brilliance was. I don't think that would be there.
The bottom line is this. They were looking for a scapegoat. This wasn't a horrible season for the Lakers. They just met the defending champs in the first round. Had they not, we both think they could have got to the finals possibly, or at least to the conference finals. This wasn't a terrible year, but they feel like it was. They went out early, so somebody has to pay the price. That's all this is. It wasn't going to be the buses. It wasn't going to be Pelinka. It certainly wasn't going to be the star players, but they all hold some accountability too.
Do you think that scapegoat is the term that rubs me the wrong way? Because scapegoat implies that someone didn't deserve it.
Yeah, totally blameless.
Like blameless. I think
I'm not saying he was blameless.
I think Rob Pelinka is at the head of the spear of blame pie. But after that, and I know folks, and it would be like, oh, we're not going to lay anything at LeBron's feet. I think LeBron played up to his ability this postseason, and I think throughout the year looked like somewhere from the 8th to the 12th best player in the league. I don't think he let the Lakers down. I don't think Anthony Davis let the Lakers down. If the Lakers' plan was, we need that guy to be the best player in the league, then they overestimated a guy who's about to be 40 years old. I do think the coaching let the Lakers down. I do. I don't think that makes him a scapegoat.
All right. Head to the East Coast, where Jalen Brunson put up 41 points to send the Sixers home in Philly. Last 4 games, Brew, 41, 40, 47, and 39. And he's put the team on his back. Most field goal attempts in the last 20 postseason. That's MVP Russ, Jalen, Luka, and LeBron. Are you ready to say he's a superstar?
Well, that's LeBron.
Jalen Brunson, as you said from the numbers, was phenomenal. 35 and 9, 40 points the last 3 games, 41 and 12 in the closeout. But no.
Oh, gee whiz.
Slow down.
Slow down.
Because you do have a postseason like this doesn't mean you're a superstar.
That's fair.
Trey Young, Exhibit A. Because here's Trey Young. And here's the difference between Trey and Rick or Jalen. One of the things.
Yes.
One of the things.
Yes.
One
Dusty,
of the things.
owe me lunch.
He was good.
We did it before
Summer League.
3:15.
Oh, he's like Jason Kidd.
I'm worried about it. Go ahead.
Here's the thing with Jalen. If he had been a lottery pick and come into the league and in short order been a star, then a postseason like this may have made you say, he's going to be a superstar.
Yeah.
But when you come in as a second-round pick, you spend 4 years as a role player, no one thinks you're going to be a star. I need to see more. It's similar quickly to Brock Purdy. Like, as much as I like Purdy, have I called him a superstar?
No, just league MVP.
Well, that's fine. But you could be that without being a superstar.
Well, so
We've
that's
seen it
the
happen.
point. And Jalen's an MVP
candidate.
candidate
Isaiah
this year.
Thomas, not the legend.
Yeah.
The other one from Boston was an MVP candidate one year. So my point is this. He's got to do more, and I brought up Trey Young for this reason. Trey Young was a lottery pick. Trey Young was ballyhooed out of college. Trey Young did come right into the league and give you 19 and 9. And in his 3rd season, he went to the Garden, and he lit it up like we were saying the same stuff. It was Reggie Miller. He took on the Garden fans. They were chanting expletives at him, and he shot them down. Man, then in the next round, he goes out and takes out Joel Embiid. Then he takes Giannis and the Bucks, who won the championship that year, to 6 games. And he averaged like 29 and 9 during that time.
That's true.
I ask you, is Trey Young a superstar?
No, but if the next year he had followed it up with another good playoff run, he would have been.
They've been to the Knicks.
The
they
Knicks
went to the 2nd round 2 years in a row. I'm not gonna fall victim to the Madison Square Garden. Let me finish. Okay. Or New York Knicks pixie dust. Everything that happens in New York is magnified. And sure, the New York media, which is a lot of the national media from New York, they're going to make, oh my gosh, I heard somebody to say today that I respect, he might end up being the greatest Knick ever.
Okay,
Can we stop?
Crazy. Well, that part was too much.
Can you get him to the conference finals?
Okay, that's too much.
He's better than Clyde Frazier, Patrick Ewing, and Willis Reed.
Hold on. Well, and he's not better than Melo yet. I agree.
My
those
gosh.
guys. No. All right, that last flourish, I'm glad you said let me finish, because I'm glad you said that. I agree with. I think, though, you are looking at Jalen through a prism that that is not how I'm looking at him. I don't look at this as a one-year thing.
2 years?
Well, 2 years ago, he was the second best player on a conference finalist. Last year, for the first time in his career, he gets his own team, so to speak. They win a round in the playoffs for the first time in forever, and he's very good in that postseason. This year, he has a start-to-finish great year on an injury-riddled team that he has to be the offensive engine for.
Yeah.
He's going to be an All-NBA guy, probably second team, and he's going to finish at either fifth or sixth in MVP voting. And then in the postseason, this four-game run, Brew, is better than anything Trey ever did. Like,
yeah, but Trey,
if I may show the four-game run in context for a moment, 35-5 in 4 straight playoff games. Bron did it once. Jordan did it twice. Jalen's doing it. Now, both for Bron and Jordan, that was before they started winning. It was, kind of similar style as this. What about just averaging a 40-point double-double over 4 straight playoff games? Look at the company he's keeping. It's legendary players, and I'm not saying Russ isn't a legendary player. That was a unique year. That was the year Russ had to do everything. And so then I will just show you the list of names in Club Superstar and then the potential new members, Brew. Because I'm looking at it, and again, it comes out in 10 days. A week from Monday, we'll debut it. I'm looking at 3 guys, and I won't say them, that I think are flatly out.
Okay.
I don't think there are 3 guys more deserving than Jalen on the right-hand side. So I think
obviously Ant-Man and SGA are in. There's no question.
Again, I would think so. We're going to have to talk to the bouncers, but I would imagine.
If
Murray
it's all,
can't get in?
I don't think Murray I said it, Murray or Brunson, not yet. I'm not willing to say superstar yet.
Well, Hall of Fame yesterday.
There's some superstars in Hall
Let's get to Embiid. Does the early exit impact Embiid's legacy?
Obviously, every playoff year, when you're still in your window and he's in his window, impacts his legacy. I've got to be honest. I thought he played his ass off. I did not think this was the Embiid we've seen in previous postseasons where it feels like, where's the guy who, woke up and gave you 30 each night? I thought that we can show you his career in the playoffs, which is underwhelming. I understand it, a losing playoff record and 25 points per game when it's, below his career average. But then you look at this series and you recognize the context of that he was not 100%, and I think the Bell's palsy thing had to impact him somewhat. So, like, his lower body and his face.
And he had a migraine at some point.
Well, yeah, so he's just dealing with a lot. Yeah. So and in Game 6, 2 of your 5 starters scored 0. Kyle Lowry and Tobias Harris scored 0. So when I look at Joel Embiid's career, I'm not going to be like, man, and remember that series against the Knicks when they went out in the first round? That's not how I felt. And so could he have been better in some fourth quarters? Obviously. And did it seem like he, wore down a bit? Sure. Yeah. But I thought Joel was the best Sixer. As great as Maxey was in Game 5, I thought he was clearly the best Sixer for the series.
Well, especially when you look at plus minus.
Right, and the series ends up being, Wildes might get mad at me on this, maybe it's just a Lakers thing. 1 point, this was as close of a 6-game series as one can have. And so.
Just look, he only had 4 ass stocks yesterday. Okay. All right.
This guy.
But no, I agree with a lot of what Nick said. The 33 points a game in the playoffs, his career high. Yeah. He played fine. He played well, especially dealing with injuries in this playoff series. My feelings about Joel Embiid, honestly, have not changed one iota, positively or negatively, because I do have to weigh to some degree the injury factor. Now, what I'm saying now is that, going forward, I'm baking in he's going to be injured. Yeah. So he's got Maxey, who we know is going to be very good, a very good sidekick, back Robin. They're going to get another guy this summer. And so I'm looking for Joel Embiid maybe to put up numbers in the playoffs, but he's going to need a Maxey type guy, another guy to do some real damage, because he's just, He's just banged. I'm going to count on him being banged up every postseason.
Just quickly, Windhorst floated the idea that Philly's keeping their eye on Jimmy Butler. Do you like that reunion?
I personally, I think Jimmy might be hit. I think the wall could hit Jimmy hard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, just the style of play and the all of it. I think
he's getting up there.
Yeah, and people give him a hard time about not going all out in the regular season. I think part of that is he knows what his body has left in him. I think that's similar
to Embiid. Like, do you want your two or your three guys?
Paul George is the obvious one that for long, you know what I mean? That makes sense on a longer timeline. On a shorter timeline, I would certainly shake the Kevin Durant tree as hard as I can.
Well, absolutely. They should try to trade for Durant. That should be the option number one. Because you say longer, shorter timeline. With Embiid, we can't treat him like he's, 30?
Yeah.
You got to treat him like he's 34. Because you see how his body is. Durant would be perfect. There would be no, adjustment period. You can fit him right in. He's going to give you 25 to 30 points. You know what Maxey does. You know what Embiid does. That's the number one option. Number two, Paul George.
Yeah, okay. And you call Rich Paul about LeBron. Like, hey, does Bronny, is there a spot at Nova or somewhere in the pen? Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.